Los humanos. Es decir, nosotros podemos llegar a un momento en que haya un gran colapso, y de hecho el colapso está ocurriendo en algunas regiones ya del planeta, ¿sí? O que se estabilice. Pero esto es un problema enormemente complicado que sí requiere de políticas internacionales y políticas nacionales. Ahora, que se puede hacer porque México, por ejemplo, México y Nigeria fueron los países que crecieron más en términos relativos en el último mitad del siglo pasado, más que cualquier otro país. Pero México logró frenar esto. Y si nos acordamos, había una política pública explícita que decía, por ejemplo, la familia pequeña vive mejor, y nos bombardeaban con esto. En los años 70 y 80 México tuvo una política ambiental muy sólida en ese sentido. Gota a gota el agua se agota, tira la basura en su lugar, la familia pequeña vive mejor. Y con eso logramos articular una educación ambiental muy sólida. Estamos proponiendo nosotros ahora al gobierno federal que retomemos esto, que todas las bardas del país, que en muchos lugares repitamos esto y las consecuencias positivas de tener. Yo creo que lo que puede ocurrir si no logramos articular estas políticas es que haya un colapso regional, probablemente en el sureste de Asia o en África, y esto va a sacudir de tal manera a la humanidad que logremos encontrar soluciones, ¿sí? Pero el problema, a mí me parece que este problema de la sobrepoblación humana y el problemas asociados ambientales es el problema más fundamental que enfrenta la humanidad. Yo creo que nunca había habido un problema de esta magnitud, excepto cuando nos enfrentamos a la posibilidad de una guerra nuclear entre Rusia y Estados Unidos en los años 60, después en un problema que hubo en 1990 y tantos. Fuera de eso, nunca la humanidad había enfrentado un problema de tamaña magnitud. Y como vemos, inclusive en las ciudades de las ideas se ha mencionado una o dos veces el problema ambiental. No se toca, se ve como una cuestión separada. Tampoco le podemos quitar la oportunidad de hacerlo correctamente a la gente, ¿no? Lo que sí creo que es que si tuviéramos los ciudadanos toda la oportunidad y la educación necesaria, podríamos elegir de una manera más correcta. Cuando tú no tienes un empleo seguro, cuando tú estás en pobreza extrema, una manera de asegurar tu futuro es teniendo muchos hijos, porque muchos de ellos se te van a morir, y cuando seas viejo no tienes seguro social, lo que vas a tener es que seguramente uno de esos hijos te va a cuidar. Es decir, la pobreza extrema, la inequidad social van asociadas directamente al crecimiento poblacional. Bueno, déjame decirte primero que el Nevado de Toluca fue la decisión más correcta que pudo haber hecho el gobierno. Fue distorsionada por un sector de la prensa por cuestiones políticas. Te voy a decir por qué es correcto. El Nevado de Toluca fue decretado como parque nacional, se decretó y se expropió la tierra. Nunca se pagó a los campesinos, y no solamente no se pagó la poca tierra que te dan en el parque nacional, se dotó a otros campesinos. Es decir, el Nevado de Toluca tiene dueño, y esos dueños son campesinos y comunidades marginadas que no podían hacer nada en el Nevado legalmente. Todas las actividades que hacían eran ilegales. Entonces la propuesta no fue una propuesta de un sector muy importante, incluyendo nosotros, que lo cambiáramos de categoría, que siguiera siendo reserva, y en la ley no hay mayor jerarquía o menor jerarquía de la reserva. En la ley mexicana, el Parque Nacional, Reserva de la Biosfera, Área de Protección de Fauna Flora, tienen exactamente la misma jerarquía de protección. Lo que cambia es que unas pueden tener mayor manejo y menor manejo. Por definición, los parques nacionales puedes privilegiar que no haya ninguna actividad productiva porque son propiedad del gobierno. Pero en México, fíjate, el gran error de Cárdenas fue que los expropió y nunca pagó la expropiación. Es decir, tienen dueño. Y lo que hemos hecho es poner a esas comunidades, marginarlas y hacerlas que sean presas de cuestiones ilícitas, tal, ilegal. Entonces, el cambio fue muy bueno. Desgraciadamente, en México, como hemos visto, hay una política, muchas veces hay intereses legítimos. La gente que se preocupó por el cambio, porque no lo entendía, lo entendió y ya quedó tranquila. Y los ilegítimos, ¿no? Que es, por ejemplo, Animal Político y otros grupos que han estado pegando durísimo, pero porque lo que se trata es pegarle al sistema para sacar prebendas, ¿no? En el caso de Nevada, lo que te puedo decir que es la decisión más correcta para tratar de salvar este parque nacional, que es importantísimo para proveer de agua a la ciudad de Toluca y a la ciudad de Toluca, por ejemplo. Yo fui uno de los que impulsé porque se estaba acabando. Y por otro lado, para que estas comunidades puedan, por lo menos, intentar salvar sus recursos y vivir de eso, ¿no? Te puedo decir ahora que en los últimos 4 años, desde que empezó el proceso, se han reconvertido 6.000 hectáreas de campo de cultivo a bosque. Es un proceso, habrá que ver si ya articulamos. En segundo lugar, a pesar de los enormes y complejos problemas que presenta México, de la delincuencia, la impunidad, la corrupción, el país sigue siendo un líder en cuestiones ambientales porque hay un sector de la sociedad, un sector adentro del gobierno y un sector de la iniciativa privada que quieren estos temas y empujado, ¿no? Deja de decirte que México se ha comprometido a llegar a la meta de Haití, que son el 17% de las áreas protegidas, del territorio protegido, pero hemos empujado mucho para que las reservas no salgan nada más como reservas, sino que tengan un presupuesto, aunque sea mínimo, que tengan infraestructura y que tengan personal. Yo creo que si seguiríamos articulando estas estrategias en México, el país va a lograr salvar la mayor parte de su diversidad biológica. Hemos recuperado en los últimos años, en los últimos 20 años México, hemos recuperado al oso negro, al cóndor de California, a los bisontes, a los flamencos, a los manatíes, a los tapires, a los jabalíes de labios blancos, a los jaguares, a las tortugas marinas. Y estas cosas no las contamos. Es decir, una cosa muy importante del país es que debemos ser, y en eso yo les agradezco sus notas cuando son asertivas y presentan las ideas como son, porque es importantísimo que conozcamos también las cuestiones de éxito. México es un país muy complejo que tenemos muchos problemas como tajamar o ciertas minas, etc. Pero por otro lado, hemos avanzado mucho. Yo te podría decir que si articulamos, seguimos empujando en conjunto, ustedes están dando la información correcta, nosotros comprometiéndonos como científicos para que nuestras investigaciones sean políticas públicas, peleando, etc., el país tiene una posibilidad de seguir siendo un líder en las cuestiones ambientales. Requiere mucho trabajo, requiere mucho esfuerzo, hay muchas amenazas, pero si hemos sorteado los últimos 6, 8, 10 años con esa violencia denigrante y hemos seguido logrando avanzar en lo ambiental, yo espero que los siguientes años sean menos complicados y logremos seguir hacia adelante. Mi pronóstico es que México, a pesar de todos estos problemas, va a seguir manteniéndose como un líder ambiental a nivel mundial.
I do research on the impacts of technology in society. I wrote a book called Learning by Doing, which looks at the 19th century United States and how technology affected jobs, but also affected skills. And I've done research on how computer automation is affecting jobs and wages today. The position I took in the recent debate was, I mainly focused on this question of will artificial intelligence cause mass unemployment in the next 10 to 20 years? And I argued no. It will definitely destroy jobs, but it will also create jobs. And in fact, we've seen, we've been applying artificial intelligence technology since the 1980s. So we can get some sense of what's actually happening. And what happens is that on average, jobs that use computer automation actually grow employment faster and wages go up. The problem is that at the same time, other jobs are being destroyed. In particular, computer automation makes some workers much more productive and they are able to essentially take over work from other occupations. So we have fewer telephone operators, but more receptionists. We have fewer typesetters, but more graphic designers. Graphic designers, for instance, have taken over the work that, with the help of computers, the work that typesetters used to do. On net, there's not job loss, there's actually job gains associated with this technology, but there's a huge human cost in the sense that people lose jobs. They don't necessarily have the skills or the abilities to gain the experience needed to perform into newly created jobs that are opening up, and more generally, we don't have the institutions to train people and reallocate them on a large scale. So there is a challenge from artificial intelligence, but the challenge is really about skills, not about the total number of jobs. Something you hoping you might get into, but I guess didn't get into time and didn't get into that. That's where it should go. So people have discussed a lot of policies, and I don't think it's an easy problem to solve. People are talking about programs for vocational education, work training. A lot of these new skills require job experience, so there are people experimenting with different sorts of apprenticeship programs or work-study programs. An important feature, so I'm speaking from the perspective of the U.S. and U.S. policy. An important issue in the U.S. is job mobility. There are a number of legal and technical obstacles for people to move jobs, change jobs, or change locations. In some ways, the law actually discourages them from doing that. I think it's also an important aspect is to make the labor market more flexible and more responsive so people can follow their opportunities. But yeah, there's a lot to be done. I don't think we know how to solve the problem, but there's certainly some things that people are doing to better encourage.
There was a word in
one of the big applications with this technology is customer service. So in many companies now, when you call up, you are dealing with an automated voice system that asks questions, can sometimes understand what you're saying and what you're responding, and channel you. Almost all of these systems then at a certain point will pass you over to a human. I know from the United States figures that the number of jobs for customer service representatives is going up, actually. So I think what happens is, it's not just machines substituting for humans, it's machines working with humans are providing a better solution. And because companies are seeing that they can provide better service this way more efficiently, they're actually doing more customer service, whereas before you might not have gotten anybody. New skills tend to be high-wage people. The economics shows that even when you take someone who does not have a lot of education and give them a computer, their wages go up too. They do acquire new skills, but on average, they don't have the access. So there's a sense of new digital divide, even in developed economies like the U.S.
Me alegra de estar aquí. Y cuando fui muy joven, yo fui a una escuela de español, entonces puedo entender, pero hace muchos años que puedo hablar. Pero I beatbox, I sing, I come from a musical family, and I believe it's the language of spreading love. And so if you haven't heard me beatbox or sing, I can just do a quick sample. Well, I want to get to questions, and then I can do some at the end. Back in high school, I started playing guitar. I come from a musical family, and so I always played piano. And then there's this amazing kid who was new in school, and he was a beatboxer. So, I heard of beatboxing, but I never saw it live. And so when he got on the mic, then it was just the most incredible thing that I ever heard, and I was just like, I want to learn how to do that. So, tell me, always write a hit song. I've worked with people who have stolen money from me. I've worked with, it's rough. But I do it because I love to bring music to the people. So all the sacrifices that I make, there's times where I'm on the road for a long time. I don't see my family. And so I guess the biggest obstacle is the sacrifices you have to make, and the how just being true to yourself at all times, because people will try to guide you every which direction. You know, back in the 80s when, you know, the whole hip hop revolution was happening, you know, they'd be breakdancing, they'd be doing graffiti, they'd be rapping, and so they would need a beat, but they couldn't afford the beat machines, the beatbox, or the turntables, so they'd just do it without. So without the mic. But of course, with the microphone, it amplifies it. It makes it sound more realistic, like a beatbox. What is my background and what's the last part?
What did your family think about when you started?
My background, like my ethnicity. Well, my dad was African American, Native American, probably English. My mom, probably German, mostly German, French, Dutch. I don't know, everything. And I found out recently that I'm a little Asian. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know.
What is the little Asian?
What?
What you found?
Oh, I don't know. It was. I saw one of my aunt's DNA tests, and it was just it just shows like general Asian. So I don't know what it is. But yeah, and when I came from a musical family, so my mom was a piano teacher. Or she is a piano teacher, and I have there's 5 kids total. So we all grew up playing piano and other instruments. And my mom really didn't let us watch TV too much. So whenever I got bored, I would just pick up different instruments lying around, you know, cello or guitar, flute, saxophone, clarinet, trumpet. And then when I started beatboxing, I think my dad was my biggest supporter. And he passed away a couple years ago, but he was with me every step of the way. So, yeah, but my family is generally very supportive of what I do and very proud of me.
How this may end up being disruptive to individual people's lives, family units, whole societies, and as these technologies move from military applications such as lethal autonomous weapons to societal applications such as driverless cars, to aspects of intimate, personal human-robot interaction. What are the right ways to go forward, and what should we allow, what should we restrict, if anything? Those are the questions that I'm concerned with at this particular point in time, while continuing to do significant fundamental basic research in robotics.
March.
The question of social justice is a crucial one, and I'm glad you brought that up. There are groups that are working on the humanitarian applications of robotics. One of the major professional societies, the IEEE, has a special group dedicated to investigating humanitarian applications of robotics and trying to ensure that indeed that the benefits don't accrue to a small few, but accrue to the many as well. That's hard to do. Indeed, I guess it's about a month, I'll be in India at a conference held in Kerala, India, on robotics and humanitarian applications of robotics as well too. So there are people that are focused on that. Your point is not lost. It needs to be done correctly. There were the days, of course, with technology when people were trying to create the $100 computer and less as well too, which meant with mixed results. But now, as you may know, probably more people, I'd have to double check the statistic, but probably more people have cell phones than there are toilets at this point. It's just a consequence of the way technology acceptance occurs among different populations. Would you rather have a toilet or would you rather have a cell phone and access to the internet? Those are choices that people have to make as well too. But the access to those choices does need to be ensured. And social justice and a cognizance of the awareness of those that are not as well off as we are in this particular community is important to continue to promote. So asking a question just like that is exactly what we should be doing. And hopefully, the next time you ask me that question, I'll have an even better answer for you.
About this also.
Those are very, very important to applications as well too, but also can go very, very wrong. Remember Microsoft's Tay?
Yes.
So I don't know if all of you are aware what happened with Tay, but Tay was introduced by Microsoft as a learning chatbot, and it became racist in a very short period of time. It was really, it was really a bad experience for Microsoft. They learned that, but you have to be very, very careful how you introduce these sorts of things. But there's other questions with chatbots as well too. What do you do if you're speaking into your iPhone and you say, I feel like killing myself today? Should it automatically dial 911 at that time? I mean, those are things that can be done. Or do you protect the privacy of the individual because you may share things? You've probably all seen the movie Her, which is probably the penultimate or the ultimate chatbot at that particular point in time, where people form attachments to these things. And I've studied this notion of attachments more with physical incarnations of AI as opposed to the chatbot style things. But we need to be cognizant that whether they have an embodiment or not, they can profoundly affect individuals and potentially protect or harm individuals. I mean, even anti-terrorism. If you're talking into your cell phone, what should be done if should you have a big brother watching you and parsing this? I would contend not in our country it would typically be the case because of freedom of speech, but NSA and others as well too have had big programs to mine voicemails and other things as well too, but in a narrow way. I'm getting a little bit off topic for you, I know, but the notion of engaging with an artifact and forming a relationship with it is questionable in and of itself from an ethical perspective. It was a self-driving car. The guy was sitting there but wasn't keeping his hands on the wheel. It was an interesting experience for the person there. But self-driving car, but Watson, for example, the program that won Jeopardy and the like as well too, IBM has invested very heavily in medical research right now and medical diagnosis. But the intention is the system comes out with a diagnosis for some very rare illnesses, and the doctors still have to agree with it before it is implemented. But by and large, they almost always do. And there's a question there, just as with self-driving cars or aircraft, when you have autopilots, eventually you stop paying attention, even if there is a human there. And we've seen this in accidents. Remember the Tesla accident as well too, where the individual was killed? One of the attributions I heard, although it was just through the press, is that that individual was distracted and not paying attention to the wheel as he was instructed that should be the case. And your atrophy of skills in pilots, in aircraft as well too, is well documented if you don't keep training. You know, if you fly hours and hours and hours and never are need to call upon your training that you got 15 years ago, you might not respond well in the case of an emergency. So these are the sorts of things that you have to trade off. I tend to be a consequentialist in my approach. And the issue is, are the outcomes better on the average or on the whole with these kinds of systems than they would be without, even if they make really catastrophic mistakes? I don't know if you remember Jeopardy, one of the craziest answers that Watson came up with was, I don't remember what it was for, but it was Toronto. It came out Toronto. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. But nonetheless, it ended up being the world champion. So these systems, it's crucially important to remember, will always make mistakes. But if we can make them better than systems that either are without humans or with humans and coupled with intelligent agents, then I think we'll be better off as a society as a whole.
Lives, I mean, because it's going to reduce traffic accidents, so it's a great thing. But it's also going to eliminate millions of jobs if that really comes to fruition. And, that's something that's just going to have an enormous impact on our society. And I think the problem is that we're not ready for that. We haven't thought about it enough. We haven't really thought through the implications of that. And the thing is that around the world, in many cases, we're already seeing the impact. In the United States, we've seen greatly increasing inequality. We've seen many people left behind that are really worried about their jobs, about their livelihoods, not necessarily because they're unemployed, but because they aren't earning the incomes that they expected to earn, that they aren't really part of the middle class anymore. And that the opportunities that really lift people into that middle class are just kind of evaporating. And I think that if you look at what happened in the United States with the election and the election of Donald Trump, a lot of that is because of technology. Most people may not recognize that. They may point to globalization or trade and so forth, but actually technology is one of the most important things that is creating all that anger and political upheaval. And my primary concern is that as technology advances, AI and robotics get more capable, we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more disruption, more political upheaval, more anger, and it's going to be a bigger and bigger problem. Continue to just rely on this idea of education. One of the things that's happening is that the machines are getting so smart that they're taking the jobs done by more educated people. So, just assuming always we can send people back to school and they'll somehow stay ahead of this is not going to be a solution. So we're going to need to think in very unconventional ways. Now, what I advocate in my book is that someday we're going to have to think about a guaranteed income, a universal basic income, so that we can make sure everyone has got access to at least a livable income, so that they can survive, and also so that they have money to spend and help drive the economy. And that's an idea that still is not feasible, it still, I think, lies in the future, but I think that someday it may be almost inevitable that we have to do something like that. But obviously that's a huge challenge politically and fiscally, so that gives you some idea of just how big this issue could be and how big the challenge is likely to be.
You gotta play the game.